Sam. Thank you so much for coming over to us at TaiwaneseAmerican.org. Can you share a little bit about yourself? Who are you? What's your story?
My name's Sam. I live in Los Angeles. I moved to the United States from Taiwan when I was 10 years old. Went to school in San Diego, but never really wanted to leave the comfort of Southern California. So kind of stay put. Currently, I run 4 brands. It's 2 companies, but one company runs 3 brands. So it's Acupuncture, which is like Chinese and Taiwanese culturally inspired streetwear. I run a leather goods brand that's all handmade in LA. It's called The Goods LA. We design and manufacture leather goods in our district. We have a brand called Apartment 135. It was kind of like a fun brand, but we end up taking a lot of Chinese like Mandarin double entendres and or like fun phrases kind of thrown on and on a shirt. And then lastly, in around September 2019, I started a new company called Steep LA, which we do mostly tea ceremonies. And then we have retail section that sells tea wares, some of the clothing products from Apartment 135, and some leather goods from The Goods LA.
I know acupuncture was your sort of like first entrepreneurship venture. What sparked you to start that? Because I know you studied engineering at UCSD.
Part of it, I think, was being Asian in general. Your parents have a lot of expectations on you. Like there's a certain thing you need to do or a certain lifestyle you need to be. So I think I chose engineering, I think in a way to appease that. And I was fine with it. I think I enjoyed that part of my life. But when I finished, I just realized I wasn't smart enough to really make a difference in engineering. Or I thought I could apply engineering to a different part. I mean, it turns out to be leather goods in the future. So we engineer a lot of parts to that. But I wanted something more creative, and I want something that would be meaningful in the long term. So the idea for acupuncture really was to create new awareness or a different type of awareness for Chinese culture and like Taiwanese culture and all the stories we've read. I don't think people here has the same opportunity to do what I was able to do in Taiwan, which is be able to have these opportunity to read a lot of these stories. So the idea was really translating that and taking a lot of these stories and characters and turning into dope, well, in my eyes at that time, dope t-shirt and dope brand.
And I am kind of curious about your other ventures too. What sort of prompted you to make those like after acupuncture?
I always say my life is a bunch of conflicts. I think there's always a conflict of interest, but being Taiwanese and also American, I think that's like a natural thing. Like when I'm in Taiwan, people don't think I'm that Taiwanese. You know, in the United States, people don't think you're that American. You're always kind of fighting for that identity. So I think that's one of the reasons why I decided to do this. Every other brand that I have done also have some sort of conflict to it. Not necessarily like I'm fighting myself, but I like that balance. I like that way to finding like this fine line right between the two things. So acupuncture was Taiwanese culture and like American culture, like kind of right in between. With acupuncture, I got a little fatigued because I was doing a lot of culture stuff. And I think hoping to make a difference, it weighs on you. And I just needed another outlet. And that's where the goods came through. By then, I was like 6 years into acupuncture. I was also getting better at also design, branding, and all that stuff. So I want to start a new brand to see if I could just get better at it. And then the place I found where I can make a difference was men's accessories. Originally, it was designed for men only, but we obviously have expanded since and then have expanded to pretty much genderless. We end up creating our own workshop and studio to make it ourselves. And I think the conflict for the goods is really like the way we pitched it was like that fine line between gentlemen and I think at that time it was still cool, gangsters. It was more like finesse and raw at the same time. And then Apartment 135 is like something that I don't think a lot of people knows about. And I don't really push a lot because originally it was designed for our staff that were making leather goods. So we say, let's make some black tees. We have the know-how, but let's not make it boring. So we end up just finding a lot of phrases that we found that was funny or meaningful to us. And then we just kind of made it. And our friends were like, hey, that's super cool. Can I get one? So I was basically slaying t-shirts on Venmo. And then I was like, I'm tired of this. I don't want people keep emailing me when they want t-shirts. I just say, okay, let's go to the website and let people buy off of that. And then Steep really is like a culmination of what I want to do for a long time altogether. One of them is obviously reintroducing our culture. I got into tea culture when I was 4 or 5 in Taiwan. My dad would bring his friends over. At my age, I thought it was super bitter and it was not tasty. It was like, why is my dad making me drink this? So I like despise tea. And then I got older. I realized that I don't always want to drink a ton of alcohol. In general, when I want to hang out, sometimes I just want to, relax, have a conversation with friends. So tea kind of started coming back to my life. And I realized for some odd reason, LA doesn't have a lot of these tea rooms that really can like sit down and sip tea, and most of them are just boba tea. And I think I just want a safe space to sit and socialize. Life is so fast nowadays. I want people to be able to slow down and have a conversation. So we thought tea was the best medium, and the social aspect of it has been so important. And I think people forget that. I find no better way to introduce people to our culture than through food and beverage, because that's the easiest way to get started.
Do you see an overarching like thread or like mission between all of your startups?
I think most of them culture, even for Apartment 135, we're doing these new things that are like last name driven. So I'm wearing my Wang hat right now. I want to be prideful of our last names. I think most of the items on market are the English spelling of our last name. Alexander Wang had Wang, right? But it's W-A-N-G on there. And then like Jackson Wang had Ting Wang, but it's also English. But to me, these are all things that I always find a lot of pride in. So I want to share that.
I'm curious how your identity sort of changed over time based off of the different projects that you have done.
I'm definitely a lot more comfortable with my own identity. Growing up in Taiwan, I think there's already a small identity crisis for me, since my dad was what they consider like Weißerin, and then my mom was Benserin. So since I was young, I was basically like Oahanji, and they love saying that too about me. I would grow up on my dad's side, my paternal grandmother or grandparents, they have a heavy, like that Chinese side accent. Where when I went to visit my maternal grandparents, they barely spoke Mandarin. Well, I found out later they actually spoke Mandarin. They just choose not to. So like my life with them was just all Taiwanese. And that was always been my Taiwanese identity. When I moved to the United States, I don't think I dropped any part of my culture.
Yeah.
And when I was at home, my mom actually wanted me to speak English with her so her English would get better. And I was like, no, mom. But a part of it was really like, I don't want to lose my like language ability. So I spoke with my mom in both Taiwanese and Mandarin. I think in high school, college, you're definitely dressing differently. You're looking different. So when you go back to Asia, you stand out, right? And that's kind of where that identity started to come, like that crisis starting to come out. Because you go back, people look at you, the first thing they say, you're not from around here. And that's a yes and no question, because I am from around here. I was born here. It's always when I speak Taiwanese, the taxi driver would just like shut up and be like, oh, he is one of us. But that does take a toll, right? You're always, every time you take a taxi, somebody's always trying to like doubt who you are, doubt where you're from. But as I continue to do this, I just get to experience more. Like if you take it differently, how often do you fight for identity all the time? It's just, you don't. Like most people kind of just take it and just kind of like, oh, this is me, that's it. But I think at all times I'm trying to prove that I'm just as Taiwanese and just as American. And then that slowly evolved into, I like who I am. I like the Taiwanese American me. I think both of them adds to my character. It doesn't take away.
Thank you so much, Sam. This is pretty awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming over.